Welcome to another episode of the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Nate Woods. I'm a senior partner here at Action Coach Peachtree. Today I'm with Brent Brownlee. He is the owner of Capt Eazy Junk Removal. We're going to talk a little bit about his business, his journey into that business ownership, some challenges he's faced, how he's been able to get through them, and let you see what it's really like to operate his business. If it's your first time on the channel, make sure to like and subscribe so you get notifications when we drop new interviews just like this. And Brent, welcome. Thanks for being here today. Just give us a brief overview of your background and tell us a little bit about your business.
I sure can. Thanks, Nate. So Capt Eazy Junk Removal, we started this business back in late January, early February. So we're going on maybe 9 months now of like 8 or 9 months of active business after we initially got it off the ground. So facing all the same things that I guess a lot of startup and new businesses face in terms of just finding ways to make money, finding clients and customers. And, started the junk removal business because my experience has been mostly in real estate, residential real estate, everything from the lending side to even the brokerage and sales side, construction, rental houses, flipping houses, all that, like basically anything that has to do with residential real estate. Well, it's 2023 as we sit here and do this conversation. And so it's a very interesting year in the world of residential real estate. Really the last few years have been, but we came into this year and sold our last flip in January. And then we're thinking, gosh, everything's just expensive, and didn't really know what else, didn't know what to do. And I sat down with another kind of advisor of mine who said, have you ever thought about the junk removal business? And I thought, yeah, I have thought about it. I haven't really put a lot of thought around it. And he gave me a couple of case studies and I started digging into those and thought, it seems like a really cool business. Seems fun. The guys I see doing it looks like they're having some fun, and it's not terribly serious. It's not rocket surgery or anything like that. And so I thought, okay, it'd be kind of a fun business you can get into. You can scale it and figure out where you want to go with the exit strategy. So that's how we got started. It was a simple conversation like that. And on the way home, ran it by my wife, who is like up there on my advisor board, if you will. She liked the idea of it, which usually is like, oh man, now I got to do something if she likes the idea. And she's got a good track record. I ran it by a couple of other friends, and literally the next day I had a lunch with another friend of mine, and we were kind of off to the races and getting it started. And obviously in this business, there's equipment involved. So you got to buy, whether it's trucks and a dump trailer or dump body trucks, which are the more expensive version. Had no idea of really how to get it going. I've never actually been in a service business. And luckily I did find there's essentially like an alternative to a franchise out there. And I'm sure these exist for all types of industries, but found an alternative to them and had a couple of interviews with them. Really liked the case studies they had for the businesses they've worked with. It was specific to junk removal. Ran it by my same sort of board of advisors, and they were all like, you kind of be, and it's not cheap to hire them, but they were like, you kind of, if you're going to go after it, you kind of be an idiot not to hire these guys. So about a month later, late February, we went and did kind of an on-site visit with these guys, ordered a couple more trucks, which took a couple of months to get going. And then, so I would say probably around the month of May is when we really started moving in terms of trying to generate a lot of activity.
Perfect. So just kind of set the stage for everyone watching. Ownership for Capt Eazy. Are you the sole owner? Are there outside investors? Do you have other partners? What does that look like?
Good question. I am sole owner. I don't have any outside investors. That terrifies me. And there's always risk, right? And I'm a lot more comfortable risking my stuff than somebody else's.
Sure.
So right now, yeah. So I am the sole owner right now, and the, I guess, sole investor, if you will.
Cool. So what role are you currently playing in the business?
Several, really. I've got an break. I had somebody just kind of walked in here.
That's fine.
Cool. And back on. So I had right now I'm playing a lot of roles. which is my current challenge, which is a good thing. But obviously, as the owner, you kind of watching quality controls and building and scaling the systems. This consulting company I mentioned, they really helped us build a playbook that is unbelievable. And I mean, the playbook, it's actually a little more than I can manage right now, to be honest with you. So I'm kind of at a point where I need to hire a call service because as of last week, maybe I'm getting more incoming calls that I have to. I mean, in this business, it's almost an impulse buy, right? And so I'm getting more than it's hard to keep up with it. And so I need to hire a call service at this point. The scheduling, the dispatching, that's a piece of it. Things like ordering t-shirts and hats and that kind of thing. That's like the fun side that I hardly get a chance to play with,
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really at a point now where I'm having to, I need to find a way to start delegating some of these things, the bookkeeping, just the typical systems that you would delegate at some point. And I did bring in another guy who's currently working with me. He's currently doing the technician side of the work, junk removal, like literally driving the trucks and picking up junk, and then doing whatever it is we do to it, whether it's give it away or recycle it or throw it away. I've got to sort of train him and get him into more of a sort of high level manager role to help me out a little bit. That's my next stage. And thanks to you, I've got a 90-day plan that started at the beginning of October to get us to that point, both in the terms of revenue and just in some systems.
Cool.
So
Love it.
hopefully by the new year is what we're hopefully it'll be a different method of operating.
Yeah.
By the new year.
I like it. So talk about Capt Eazy. Who's the primary market? Who are you trying to help?
Great question. I'll start with geography and then move into sort of, I guess, demographic maybe. We are based out of Fayette County, Georgia, so Peachtree City. And on the south, so ideally you want it to be sort of hyper local, right? Because you're driving trucks around and picking stuff up, and you want to be able to make as many stops in one day as efficiently as possible. So we were looking at Henry County, Clayton County, Fayette, some South Fulton, Coweta County, inside that sort of maybe some Spalding County. I'll say about 4.5 counties, sort of. And there's about 800,000 people, which I've done the metrics on our business could, based on this other data that I don't have, my sample size is real small, but that should be able to sustainably hold about 12 working units. So a truck and 3 guys is his unit. So the goal geographically is to build out this region with that many units over the next 5 years. As far as demographics go, I would put it sort of in the category of like in a lot of ways, kind of a luxury purchase, like you're paying someone to come by your house to pick up stuff and take it away. It's not always that. I mean, there are certainly situations where it's not luxury. They don't necessarily, it's hard to afford, or they kind of have to have it for some reason or another. But a lot of times, like our real primary market would be just that. It'd be a family that just has things they need to go. It's been taking up space in their garage or their basement, and then just coming and taking it away. One of the other services we provide is demolition, whether it's a shed, a deck in the backyard. We've been doing a lot of bidding even for whole house demolitions around the area. That's something we can add. I actually have experience doing that in just past businesses, but it does kind of fall into what we can do. And that's a lot of times more investors, builders, that kind of thing. So I would say that's our sort of geography and demographics. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're looking at other junk removal businesses in the area, what would you say makes Capt Eazy unique? Why would people choose you?
I'll tell you what we're trying to do with that. And there are certainly some good junk. We have some good competition, in the area, like most businesses would. What we're really trying to do is we're honestly not trying to be the cheapest guy around. There's going to be there's always people who are cheaper. But we've been working, for example, with a lot of the real estate community in these 4 counties. You have real estate agents and realtors who, whenever they're selling a property, they have sellers who always leave stuff behind, or you have buyers that move in and then they have stuff that they're like, we got all the stuff we need to get rid of it. And so what we've been doing, they've been referring us to their clients. Well, my language to them is, when you do that, we're essentially an extension of your business. Like, you want us to come in professionally, and not just you want to be cost effective, but you want us to be professional. So the image that we're trying to portray is to be a little more professional than what you would typically think a junk removal guy may be, right? And so everything from our branding, our trucks, and even our systems, the way that we book our jobs and estimate our jobs, and then give periodic confirmations as far as the timing when we'll be out there, and then even the invoicing and the receipts and the request for a Google review, we try to make it very professional. Just systematic, process oriented, and people feel like they're not being left in the dark. Like, when is this appointment again? Like, they want to know, like, okay, it's going to be on Wednesday at 10 a.m. and they expect a text 30 minutes before telling them what our ETA is, if we're going to be 5 minutes early or 10 minutes late. That, just let them know.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're basically hammering on quality in an industry where you don't necessarily have to have it, right? And so that's our goal, is not to be the cheapest guy, but to kind of hammer on quality and to really build brand recognition there. We kind of started again with the real estate community. That's just where I've been in my history, and it's starting to take traction.
Awesome. So you talked a little bit about branding. Let's jump into marketing a little bit. So as you guys are scaling up, what would you say? How many different marketing strategies are you trying to use right now?
Not 10 like you told me to, but I'm working on it. The marketing is an entirely new world to me. I've always been in sales, and I'm quickly learning how different sales and marketing actually are. You put me on the phone with somebody, I can talk to them and have a good conversation, and I'm not a real salesy person. I just have good conversations and help people understand what it is they're looking at, and it's always worked. Marketing, man, it is a huge world, and when it comes to, like, especially the digital marketing world with SEO and Google ads and social media marketing, I know nothing about it. And so thankfully, the consulting company that we did hire, they do have a marketing arm. That's part of their business proposal, is to kind of keep them on doing some of the marketing for you. So I feel like in some ways, I mean, they're making money off me, but if I'm not successful, then they don't stay in business. And so there's some element where I'm kind of using them as a sounding board for some marketing. Other friends of mine. So what we're doing, here's what we're doing. Definitely the SEO and Google ads. Just now starting to see some results from that. Just in-person community marketing, like we've been, the real estate offices, we've been going in. This is great. I think a lot of businesses should do this more often. Most real estate brokerages have team meetings. A lot of times once a week or once every other week, they'll get everybody in there. And so we've been going in, taking lunch or breakfast, whatever time it is, and doing a little 5-minute presentation and sponsoring their lunch or breakfast, or like an award ceremony and sponsoring that. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, but it's not expensive. It's, $150 probably every time you go in there, but you're in front of 50 people at a time. And they do appreciate you kind of supporting them in that way. So we've been trying to do that once every week or so, with different groups around this 4-county radius. Networking groups, like, we're part of a business networking group that we go to every week. That's awesome. I mean, I've just watched a number of businesses coming in and out of there, and really get businesses off the ground. So those are phenomenal if you find the right group. Just boots on the ground kind of marketing. Having our guys when they're not busy, door knocking. One day I had 2 people in the same couple of day period come by my little cul-de-sac where I live. One was for pest control, and one was a pressure washer. Kid in high school. Got 3 jobs in my cul-de-sac. Kid in high school, like a handheld pressure washer, not like a professional mounted on the back of the truck. 3 jobs. I added it up. It was almost $1,000 for this kid in high school to come out on a weekend make it that. And I'm like, door knocking apparently works. And so I did it. So I went out and started door knocking for the junk removal company. And here my metrics were kind of typical sales metrics. Like when I had 10 conversations, not 10 doors, but 10 conversations, I got one job. I'm like, well, how long does it take me to have 10 conversations? Less than 2 hours. So less than 2 hours, I can get a job. So if I need 3 jobs in a day, well, that's 6 hours of conversations, So that's number 3. I guess 4, get some digital. I'm not doing a lot of social media yet. Again, that my thought process on that is the business I'm in is more of an impulse purchase and social media can be good for impulse purchases, but to me, it's more brand recognition than pure impulse purchase. So just because we're new and we have a limited quantity of dollars and energy and time and all that stuff, I'm focused more on the Google SEO and Google Ads and that kind of stuff for now. Our trucks are wrapped and it's our branding. It's funny, I hated it at first. I thought it was super cheesy, and told the marketing guy, and we had a whole conversation. He goes, Brent, do you want something cool you can have on a hat, or do you want something that works? It's like, fine, you win. And it works, man. Like I went out last weekend. I don't get a chance to get on the trucks very often, but every now and again I will. And so I went out like a Saturday night. My family was busy, and so I was like, well, I can do it. So I actually went up to Kennesaw, which is not in our geography race, but went to Kennesaw, did a job, and had to get some gas. So I thought, you know what? I need to go to a busy gas station because I'm thinking trucks wrap. Maybe somebody will stop and ask me something. And so I went to a QT, and it's like 8 o'clock at night. It's getting dark, and I parked, filling up gas. And sure enough, the lady walks up to me, and she had like a whole hoarder house situation, which would be a great job for us. Like probably 3 trucks full, not just like a full day, 4 guys, and probably for us, probably a almost $2,000 job, which our average job is probably $350 bucks. Yeah. So that's good. And so she just walks up and she's like, hey, I've got this going on. Can you give me a card? And I'll call you, we can get it scheduled. So the trucks in themselves, if you get in the right area and just kind of hang around, do some paperwork while you're just sitting there in a gas station parking lot, it happens all the time. It's shocking. So that's 5. So there's 5 there. I'm sure that I can come up with more. But just trying to find ways to get exposure between in-person sales and supporting groups, boots on the ground kind of stuff, the trucks and equipment being branded, and then the digital marketing.
Yeah. Awesome. So talked a lot about the business, how you're structured, how you're getting through some things. So let's talk about your journey a little bit. So if you look back on your journey so far, what's been the most memorable roadblock or a hurdle that you overcame that stands out in your mind?
And you mean in this particular business?
Sure. Yeah.
I would say that's a good question. For me, this is more maybe a personalized answer. So for me, the trucks we bought, the consulting company, the guy who's done this very successfully a few times in the past, he's an older guy. And he said one of the things that he learned is whenever he bought trucks, he always had to buy 2, right? Because if one goes down or something, he's like, you're out of luck. And he's like, so if you have capacity, you need to buy 2 trucks. So I was like, well, we've got capacity. So I bought 2 trucks. And they're not cheap, right? They're almost $100,000 per truck. And for me, that's a lot. And so we really have 3 units. We have a F-250 and a dump trailer. So sort of 3 units there. So it was a lot of capital initially for me to get into it. And it was a bit slower than the whole process was slower than I anticipated. Everything from actually getting the trucks in to getting the website done to getting the marketing going and just everything just costs more and takes longer. It's like construction, right? Everything costs more and takes longer than you think it will. And so that can be discouraging, there were moments, I haven't had this in a while, but there were certainly moments for a few months where I'm thinking every 4 days, I was like waking up, okay, how do I get out of this as efficiently as possible, right? So seriously, every 4 days I was waking up and I had this thought process, how do I get out of this? And so uh, as the traction started to happen more and more, you kind of start seeing it. You start having just some little wins every now and again, like good jobs come along, or people, or a good Google review. People be like, man, you guys are amazing. I've called people before, they wouldn't call me back. Different things. And you're like, okay, what we're going after is working. It's working. Do I want to work more? Absolutely. But it's working. And every time we're in a real estate community, whether it's a sales meeting or an awards ceremony or whatever, the feedback I get on this particular business is, oh man, I could have used this last week, or I need that card like yesterday. And so I walk away from a lot of the situations thinking, okay, I just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep moving, because this thing can work. I just got to keep going. And so it's just persistence, just keep going. And it'll be interesting to figure out how many mistakes I've made one day. And because there's been a lot of them, I'm sure. Because I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm trusting people like you, Nate. And then, so my journey there is just the lesson of just keep on going. I'm sure I'll have that happen a bunch of times. And the other lesson I've learned multiple times, I'm still learning it for what it's worth. Man, it's helpful. It's helpful to have people who you can. I keep mentioning an advisory board. I don't have a formal advisory board. I just have people around me that I know, I trust, who have some level of experience in different things that I bounce things off of. I ask them questions. Here's what I discovered. I think people in general do this. We tend to ask advice, but not really ask advice. A lot of times we kind of figure out what we want to do, make up our mind, and then we go ask people as if we're asking, but we're not. We're just telling them what we plan to do. And they kind of smile and nod, and we look at that as oh, that's validation of me, of what I do is a good idea. Well, the problem is I never actually ask you for advice. You know what I'm saying? And so I've learned oh, I need to actually make sure I'm asking people for advice. And then since I've had that sort of awareness, I've been able to observe other successful people around me and be like, oh, they do that well. I've had this happen multiple times where I'm like, oh, so-and-so, or this person in our community, I'm watching them do things. I'm like, they legit go and ask the experts or just other people they trust for advice instead of just making up their mind and doing stuff. So those are probably the two main my journey type lessons that I've learned so far.
There's
That's me again.
There's I guess a slight intricacy there, but you would think it would be much more obvious. But asking for advice first thing versus asking for confirmation and being able to take it either way.
Well, we tend to just ask for confirmation, right? And I'm like, oh, the people that I'm watching around me who are very successful, they're very good at asking for advice and not just confirmation.
Yeah. Awesome. We've covered a ton of ground, so people can go back and check out some of those marketing strategies or a little bit about Brent's journey. But I got a couple rapid fire questions. So just quick top of head answers. Keep it brief before we wrap up today. So one, what is the key to success for you?
Wow, I haven't thought of the answer to that question, but let's go with just put one foot in front of the other. Persistence. And expect challenges, expect them because they'll happen. And then my job is just to keep going and find a way to overcome those challenges.
Perfect. What is one book or podcast that you have listened to recently and would recommend to other business owners?
Traction is one that I'm still currently going through. As a matter of fact, the consulting company that I mentioned, I asked them this question and they recommended that book to me, and then I've heard you mention it since then. So Traction is one that I'm going through.
Awesome. Last quick fire. So if you had to choose one area of the business to immediately improve tomorrow, what would it be?
One area of a business to immediately improve tomorrow would be I need to find a way to delegate the phones, answering phones, booking jobs. I think that's next on my radar. That's what I'm feeling the most.
Awesome. So before I get to the final question, what is the best way for viewers to learn more about you or book a job with Capt Eazy? What's the best way to get in touch?
Again, we're not doing a whole lot on social media. There's a little bit on there, but it's not a ton. I would say right now it's just our website. So it's Captain is the abbreviation CAPT, and Easy is EAZY with a Z. So CaptAeazy.com. Real simple.
Perfect. I'll link that in the description. And then my last question for you today is, what most inspires you as you continue to move forward in business?
Oh, I love this question. So the 1 minute answer to this question is, I am oddly not that, up to a certain level, like I'm not that motivated by just making more money. I'm not a buyer of things. I kind of wish I was, because that would be more motivating. And but I'm not. But what I am motivated by, probably two things. One is I'm very curious. I'm interested in like experiences and adventure. And business is an adventure, right? Like, let's see what we can get into and stir up today. I like that feeling. And one of the other things that's motivating to me is whether it's my kids or my friends or just people I'm around. I really am. I'm really interested in seeing them succeed, right? Like fulfill things in life that they want to fulfill. So two things there. One is my kids are young. They're 14, 12, and 10. And so at this point, I've actually taken two of my kids out on jobs with me, and I pay them $12.50 an hour to do work, and I make them work, and they love it. Like, they love it. And so watching, and I talk to them actively about the struggles, like about money, like, hey, we're losing money this month, and I talk to them actively, and they ask questions. And so getting them to see that process it is fascinating to me, because I want them to have a choice. Like, do you go to school and get a degree and get this job, or do you go in business? And I don't want to be one way is the right way or the wrong way. I want to be like, what do I want to do, and have the tools to go do it. The other one is, this is the first service business I've had. It's not going to be the last one. It is my baby, but it's not my only baby. So I'm very fascinated. Like, how can I have people around me, friends around me, that I can help them do the same thing along with me? Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or we can both wake up in 5 years and be like, wow, our lives look different. Those two things are probably the most motivational things to me every day, as opposed to being like, how much money can I make this month for me to go buy this thing? It's a very valid motivation. It's not saying it's right or wrong. It's just not my personality.
Yeah. Awesome. Brent, I appreciate you joining me today. It's great hearing your story and a little bit about Capt Eazy. Thanks again.
You got it, man. Thank you.